Hello, my name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another used book rant. Today, I'm going to be covering this book, even though I knew the end. The author is C.L. Polk. I paid $7.50 for this, and I really enjoyed it. It's a 2022 book, so kind of new, and it was only about 130 pages long. The cover art is by Mark Smith. The cover design by Christine Fultzer. This is a Tor Publishing Group book. So a neat little find. I paid for this at the start of the 2025 furlough and read it over the course of, I think, 1 or 2 days, really. During that same trip to Coas Books. And actually, it was the first Friday of the furlough. I know that because that weekend I also ended up purchasing, it was behind me on those shelves, the Rifts RPG handbook, which was up there a while ago. It was a cool find. I ended up spending a lot though, but I knew that I was on my way out because I had already gotten the unofficial job offer at my current job, and I had been invited up there to do some pre-processing kind of stuff, drug tests and so on. And so I knew I was leaving the area, the southern New Mexico area, so I knew I had the opportunity to finally just splurge on a book that was going to be expensive, and it was. Rifts, that book, $75, of which I had $37.50 on credit that I could use. That brought it down significantly. And then I was able to use, funnily enough, because this book was $7.50, I could use half of it for the credit as well. So I ended up spending $3.75 on that. The total was in the ballpark of $50. I read Dinotopia around that time. I read, even though I knew the end, I read Tomorrow's Bones, which is a story in the Numenera setting. The Lies of the Ajungo, I read around that time. The Dead Cattail Assassins, I read around that time. The Age of Deer, I read around that time. So there's a lot of books that I read during that because I had a lot of time to do some reading. So what is this particular book about? Like I said, it's 130-ish pages long. It's a novella about a 1920s era, 1930s era noir kind of story. It is a urban fantasy story, and it is a sapphic story as well. There were certain elements of it that I felt were incredibly predictable, but also really strange as well. The story centers on a character named Helen Brant, and she was part of this order of magic users, and those magic users are very rare and have a very strict modus operandi. And in a moment where Helen, who was an incredibly powerful, gifted user, her whole family was in a car accident. She made a deal with a devil to get her brother's life back. But a deal with a devil is abhorrent to the organization she was with, and so for all they knew, she was gone, and she has been instead using a technique to take, like, using magic with photography to take photos of what happened there in the past, as well as get additional clues that normal investigators cannot get. And so on one assignment, near the 10th anniversary of her deal with the devil, she ends up seeing her brother, who doesn't acknowledge her but does clearly recognize her, and a former friend. It was a pair of both her brother and a former friend from that organization. Out of a courtesy for what she had been, they don't report her, but normally she would be someone they report and dispose of. Then she gets a call from a benefactor who turns out to be a devil. And this devil has the right to Helen's soul. But there is a string of murders, and this devil is asking for Helen's help in solving this murder in exchange for her soul back. So she does this devil's deeds. She becomes a full human again. There are certain aspects of this story as it developed, like I said earlier, very predictable, whereas certain aspects were not. It does turn into a devils versus angels kind of story, and it's pretty obvious about that early on. The magic is from the angels and the devils in ancient times who mingled with humans, and that magic lingered in humanity. So, you know, it's a very not standard setting, but it's not an entirely original setting, but it was still good writing and a good mystery. Like I said, I predicted certain aspects of it, but other aspects of this narrative I did not see coming. So, for example, and this is a bit of spoilers, at one point in time, Helen is able to determine that all of the people that had been killed recently had been nothing for much of their life, and then some generational talent comes out of them where they excel for about 10 years and then they mysteriously die. And the devil that works with Helen believes it to be another devil muscling in on her turf. And so that was a predictable line of reasoning. It ended up being a red herring, but it was a well reasoned red herring, and I felt like the narrative surprised me while also made me think, duh, that would make sense. So it was a good mystery in that sense. It was also sapphic. Helen is doing this because if she gets her soul back, then she has a lifetime with her lover. And if she and her lover can run away to San Francisco, a place that is more accepting at the time, and even now, especially now, of LGBTQ plus folk, if she can get from Chicago to San Francisco, it'll be expensive. There'll be less of a magic presence, but it'll be safer and she can live a life with her lover. And so there are those components to it, but the lover ends up taking a more prominent role in the narrative as it goes on. And that is something I really liked. I liked the way that Helen was overbearing, and it makes sense. You know that you might be a target because you're coming up on that 10-year deadline as well. So, like, you know, you're coming up on that deadline, you're a target, you've got a lover, you've got a chance to get away. All of this is very stressful all at once, and you've got a lover that you need to protect. Hell yeah, that's a time where you say, I know it might be overbearing. Please humor me. I need you to play it safe as possible so that I can have this opportunity with you. So the story progresses from there. It's a really neat narrative, though. Like I said, very short, only 130 pages long, but it felt reasonable. It felt like the exposition worked well. It felt like the dialogue went well. It felt like the setting worked well. And all of this molds into a reasonable story where, for $7.50, really, the cover says 7.5. The sticker says 7.5. I paid $3.75 for this. I felt like I got my money's worth out of it. I really enjoyed it, and I think I know some people that may enjoy this one as well. It wasn't signed by the author. It wasn't. There's no reason for me to hold on to this book. It's not an advanced copy. So I think I am going to pass it along. It won't be on my bookshelves for much longer, but it will be in the hands of someone who will also appreciate it. And that's a good kind of book, the kind where you can pass it to other people and give them an opportunity to read it. Behind me, I didn't mean for this to be relevant, but the book behind me is a tabletop role-playing game that uses tarot cards to determine. Instead of rolling dice, it uses tarot cards. It's about angels doing the job when God isn't. And it's actually kind of thematically relevant to this book, even though I knew the end. But it wasn't intentional. It's just a nice coincidence. But yeah, I liked this book. I'm going to be giving it to someone else, and I hope they like it as well. So that's about as much praise as I can give any book. I think if you see this on the shelves, you'll probably like it as well. If you like any of the urban fantasy stories I've discussed on this channel, such as like the Dog Days series, which was followed by New Tricks, Unleashed, and Play Dead. That was a fun series as well. I never actually finished talking about it. I may come back to Unleashed and Play Dead eventually. If you liked hearing about those kinds of books or liked those kinds of books, this is probably a good one for you. If you like that kind of 20s, 30s aesthetic, this is also going to be a good one for you. It's just a really neat book. So, yeah. My name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another used book rant.